All right, so in this initial training, we're just going to kind of get oriented in the system. I will cover a few minor things at the beginning in terms of navigation, just for any new staff that may be watching this video, just so we can all make sure we're on the same page. But the overall in this video, excuse me, in this training, will be kind of an overview of the system to point out all of its features and functionalities. Um, like Funnily Connect, for those of you who are using both systems, it has very similar layouts and functionalities. We have the quick menu, the account menu where you can find your account and support, and the main menu.
Okay,
So,
Eric, we're not
yes.
seeing your screen yet.
Okay, that's a good point. I have not shared it. Let's do that. There we go.
If you're sitting here dancing, we can't see it.
I am dancing. No. Yeah. So quick menu, account menu, main menu, and me putting myself into do not disturb. There we go. Um, So the system has a lot of cool functionalities. We obviously, as a CRM, have contact management, which includes adding contacts as individuals, adding them as organizations. So this may very well be your partners or corporate sponsors and things like that. We have the ability to manage duplicates. We have the ability to advanced search. So advanced search also comes with quick search. And so we can type in a name, first name, last name, or contact ID, which is a unique identifier for all contacts. If we run an advanced search, we can do all the standard searches there, individuals versus orgs, contact information, address, and we can also search using criteria for just about everything else in the system, including custom information that you've created using custom data sets. Let's do a quick search here just for every individual in your system, and I'll show you a couple things on the result screen for advanced search. So here we'll have it. This will be a big result, I'm expecting. I am in your database, so everything you see here is your data. So let's give it a moment. Like I said, large. I probably should have picked something a little smaller than all individual contacts because this is probably going to be quite a large search.
While it's searching, a
Yes,
question I have is
absolutely.
we know that CRM is connected to Connect, and so that the people, when we search as individual, are potentially donors and or Connect people.
Correct.
Is there a distinction in the CRM between the two that you could filter out Connect people that have no CRM value?
Yeah, I think that could be done. Normally, so that's kind of what I call negation reporting. You're trying to get something not on what it has, but what it doesn't have. So that can be sometimes a little on the tricky side. But what you could do, for example, is do an advanced search on they have contact type, volunteer, and contact type is just a way of organized tagging contacts based on their activity or relationship to your organization. We can go more into tagging if you want. So for example, Brimmer here, we don't have much information there for him or her, is a volunteer, but notice that they have no other contact type. So we could do an advanced search saying contact type is volunteer, and how'd I do that one? I'd have to give that one a little thought because we'd have to find, because if someone has no contact types, I can't just go contact type is volunteer and contact type is not, and then pick
Well,
everything else because they could
I
have
do
no
see
other contact
something.
type.
I do
Excuse,
see something on the left. It goes source is Funnily Connect. So we
yeah.
could say eliminate all Funnily Connects. I see that. I mean, that's all I'm looking for is ways we
Oh,
can
okay.
make it happen. It's okay. And then
Okay.
we will be adding types and tags as we go along. Now, the next question I have is if somebody was in the Connect side, but they were already in the CRM side, because they came from Salesforce, are they one, or did we end up with a duplicate and we had to remerge them back to one?
Okay. I'm going to hold off on that for 1 minute. We'll cover it in just a second. I want to finish up on this page, and then I'll actually show you duplicate prevention since we're talking about
Okay.
contacts. Okay. So
And
last thing
we've been in duplicates. We've done the prevention. We're really heavy into that,
oh,
so
okay.
some of us know that well.
In which case, that's basically the answer. If the information you have in here is per your duplicate prevention settings, which I believe are currently first name, last name, and email, match what you have coming over from Connect, you end up with one record. So for example, if I have Bob Smith with bobsmith@gmail.com in Funnily Connect, and I have the same information in CRM, at least that information, the two contacts will be merged as one. But if I have if I have Robert Smith in here with bobsmith@gmail.com, and Funnily Connect has Bob Smith, not Robert Smith, but Bob Smith at bobsmith@gmail.com, the two don't match because of that first name, and you would end up with two records in here that you'd have to merge.
Got it.
So
Okay.
just something to keep in mind.
All right.
Um, a few things I want to point out on this screen is one, we can export this list. It will give you basically a list for every person and organization and a ridiculous amount of information, probably more than you needed, but you can always slim it down in Excel. We can update the search and we can apply bulk actions to these searches using the options down here, either selected contacts or all. Also edit and view.
Okay.
And I was going to go to manage duplicates, but we did just cover that. So manage duplicates is where you can merge contacts as well as modify your duplicate prevention settings and review what you have merged previously.
Okay, go ahead and go there. Apologize because three people didn't know it, but do it on a high level.
Okay, so basically in manage duplicates, we have three tabs. We have review, which will look for potential duplicates on a weekly basis and present them to you. And it's going to be kind of less strict than the prevention settings, and it's going to just find potentials, and it's not going to automatically merge them, as we discussed. The most broad of all these options is name only, so that would match Bob Smith and Bob Smith, even if nothing else matches. So this could find a lot of non-duplicates. So just keep that in mind, and there's an option to say they're not duplicates. Prevention, we set our prevention settings. Oh, actually, you've gotten a bit stricter. You've also asked it to match address.
We're getting ready to do the import, and we're having issues with it. So
Okay.
we'll have to talk to Tanner. But we wanted it as tight as we could to create the most duplicates at this moment.
Okay, then that's exactly what this will do. So, this is an and statement. Basically, everything must be true to be considered a duplicate. So yes, this will find the least amount of duplicates and will create the most amount of duplicates. If that made sense.
Yes, exactly.
Okay. Yeah. Cool. And then merge history.
Try explaining that to my data guy. It was tough.
Yeah, I phrased that kind of poorly, but I think we're all on the same page. And then merge history is just all the merges you've done, which you have done a ridiculous number because you guys have a lot of data, and this is a history of all those merges. One thing to know about merging contacts, it is an overnight process, which means you set them to merge overnight, which means you'll have a status of processing or pending, I forget what it says, and it will merge every morning. Let me take this opportunity to mention there are a number of things that happen overnight. And so it's good to know what they are. The first of them are your dashboard. That updates every morning. So it updates every morning. If you add donations midday, it won't be updated yet. Merging happens overnight. If you go to a contact record, here, let's do that. So it's Brianna Jones. If you go to a contacts record, there's two particular areas on that record that are overnight updates. One is the ledger balance, which we'll see here in just a minute in the upper right, that basically says, do they owe you money or do you owe them money? Normally should be 0. That updates every night. And the summary, giving and financial summaries here are also overnight processes. So if you add a donation and this isn't updated yet, that's why. There's a few others here and there throughout the system, but those are really the important ones.
Are imports overnight also?
Say that again?
When you import contacts like we're doing, is that overnight also?
That is real time, is my understanding. If you want to know the full list of overnights, if you go to the support tutorials database and go to the getting started section, there's a list of all the overnights processes that you may need to know about. But those are the four main ones that you'll be wanting to be concerned about.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, so since we're here, this is the contact details screen. There's a lot we can do here. I'm not going to go through all the nitty gritty, but I'm going to point out a couple cool features. Giving details is where you're going to get all your donations. Financial details, all the money. So this will include donations, events, memberships. And then we have a couple of things you can do here: manage cards, receive payments, or if we're on the giving details, add gifts can be done from here, as well as from add gift and from invoices and a few other places. We see the contact types the person has, and we have sections that have the various data that someone may have on their record. This person has very little. You can rearrange this as needed. using layout configuration. So
And that
layout,
will arrange for everybody or just that one person?
it will arrange for every contact, but just your user ID. So I'm logged
Okay.
in as Bonnie. Okay, let's pretend I'm Bonnie for a moment, and I make a rearrangement here. It will not affect um, some other user whose name I don't know. Sorry. Um, so, cool. So Bonnie can have one layout. Jeff could have a different one. Is there a
Got
Jeff?
it.
I don't remember the Jeff.
No, but that's okay.
Okay.
Um,
Sorry.
when you've got contact type up at the top,
Yes.
okay, we've got them, let's say, as just a connect person at this moment.
Correct.
All of
Volunteer.
a sudden, they decide to give us money.
Correct.
When we receive that gift, does it automatically now tag them as a donor, or if they go to an event or any activity happens with this person in the future?
Some of them they will, some of them they won't. So let's take a quick peek at configurations from the main menu. So here we are, and we're just going to take the quickest of peek at contact types, and I'm going to give you a definition compared to tags. So I'm just going to define these really quickly. I don't want to get too deep into them, but basically contact types represent the activity or relationship between a contact and you. The ones that come with the system, so the ones that we cannot edit here, including donor and member, are added by the system automatically for you. So you add a donation to their record, they become a donor. You add a membership, they become a member. That membership expires, they become an ex-member. You add them to Funnily Connect, they get volunteer. You mark them as an inactive volunteer, they get ex-volunteer. So these ones come in and get added automatically. These other ones that you've created, you add manually. So if you edit a contact's record, there's a little plus button up by their name, and it will let you add these any of these manually. The system-defined ones, which are added automatically, cannot be added manually. So without adding a donation, I cannot mark them as a donor. So keep that in mind. Very important thing to know.
Is there a prospect area? Is there one I can say is a prospect for my good old fundraising area? I can't see all the names, but I'm just asking. We can just add one, right?
You can add one, but let me show you a cool feature that's built into the system called Stage of Development, which is explicitly built for, well, what stage are they in the development process? So let's go to a contact record, and let's see, it's under, I think it's got its own section. Here it is, Stage of Development. So you could move this up, Bonnie, if you wanted to. And basically what you do is under configurations, you'd create your stages of development. We don't have any currently. And you could say what stage someone was at. So if we went back to configurations, there's a section that called stages. You can create your stages, and you can have prospect, dead end, major donor, minor, whatever your stages in the development process are, you would have that. And when we change it, it's going to keep a history of when they went from one stage to another. And this is reportable and searchable. So this is far better than contact type, more tidy, and although it's not as visually obvious because you don't have the icon, it will, where'd it go? I lost it. There you are. It will be searchable, and so I recommend using this tool here for that.
Okay. Thank you. And then I saw engagement history. So when we send them a newsletter, is that where all of that goes? That just caught my eye. Right.
Yes. So emails, newsletters, various other notifications from the system, all the communication will show here. There's also a feature, which I'm glad you brought this up, otherwise I may have forgotten it, called tasks. Specifically, the full name is interaction and task. And what this lets you do is say, on this date, I had a phone call with them. I had dinner with them. I met with them at the grocery store. Or a task, I have to send them a report. I have to do something. And these interaction tasks have a lot of cool functionality. One being is they will show in the engagement history for that person. So that's cool thing number one. So you'll see all their emails, all your interactions, all your tasks under engagement history. Donation acknowledgement will also show under engagement history, by the way. So engagement history is like the end-all be-all of all interactions. Interaction
and then select user is who it's going to tell that the task needs to be handled by.
Exactly, or the interaction was with.
Okay, got it.
And you can set these for the future and set reminders. so that you get a pop-up in the system when you log in that day, however much time before or even after, saying, hey, you have this interaction or task coming up. So it's kind of like if you use Outlook or Google Calendars, similar concept. Kind of does a little pop-up saying, hey, you got a thing to do, or what have you.
Thank you.
So really cool feature. I think, Bonnie, you will probably make a lot of use of this in addition to stage of development if you're doing development.
Excellent. Yeah, it's all mine.
All right. So interaction and task can be accessed from any screen with this task section. Add will let me add a new one. I can also add one from a contacts record, add interaction. This number here, if I run a search, will tell me how much meets my criteria, and I can run searches for, status, date, all sorts of interesting stuff. And on the report topic, I will have some more reports coming under default reports for interactions and tasks. Thank you. Alrighty. So that's contacts. We spent a bit more time on there than I meant to. Any questions on contacts? Searching for them, duplicate prevention?
No, I do have a question on the types of contacts and stuff. Okay, so we're going to have issues, bad data in, bad data out, where you've got 8 different people for CSX. We're going to have to connect these people, but we've got to determine, individual versus organization. If all 8 are in there, getting this cleaned up to where all the CSXs, if I did a report, would show 8 people from CSX kind of thing, whether they be on the volunteer side or whether they be on the money-giving side. I'm a little confused how I'm going to clean up this data as we go along and work with the people.
Okay.
So my logic is, to be honest, I would love to be able to say, give me a search for all CSX. Now take every one of them and make them a part of CSX organizational-wise, or do they stay as individuals? How am I supposed to manage these people?
Gotcha. So you need a way to link individuals to the organization they work for?
I would like to. So if I
have that.
How many people do we have at CSX in our volunteer capacity and in the management capacity, serving on our board, or in any capacity that interact with our organization, current, past, and future?
Gotcha. So what you'll do is add the individual as an individual, record their history as you would normally do anybody else. However, what we can do, and we can do this both from the individual's record and the organization's record. So let me actually go ahead and edit Brianna here. I'm sorry, she's our guinea pig. I don't know, I'm sorry.
I could give you a name, Brian Ward, I think, that might be exactly that case.
Let's do that. Brian Ward, I'm assuming that's the spelling.
Yeah.
So Brian Ward.
Hopefully he's in.
We'll find out. He is not, at least not under the spelling I used.
Okay, then Susan Hamilton. Okay.
Susan Hamilton. That's the right spelling?
Okay. Yes, sir.
Okay. I'm a terrible speller, so
It's
I have to double check.
And see, our issue with her is she's retired and there's new people in charge. Okay, well, never mind at this moment. We'll keep going.
Well, what we can here, let's do this. We can, it's just one person. Let's do this. Let's add me using add individual real quick. So just add me to your database really quickly. We can always delete me later. Okay, so save and add more. So that was a quick add for individual. It gives you the truncated version. I then did save and add more, which will then save my record and open it up in the edit mode. So now I'll actually see it, as if I was editing it normally. What we can do is under work information, we can state what company I work for. And when we do that, if there is a record for the organization, the link goes both ways. And it is possible to build a report that basically says, show me everybody who works at a company.
Okay, that's what I'm kind of looking for. So I can clean them up quickly without spending all day at it.
Correct, yeah.
Okay.
So put the individual's information under the individual, put the organization's information under the organization, and then under work information or employee information for the organization, link the two together. which is really easy to do.
Okay, thank
Okay,
you.
no problem.
Sorry
Alrighty.
to go on sidebar.
No, that's what we're here for. So, okay, so that's contacts. Um,
So,
Michael has a question. Hang on.
yes, Michael.
so when you say the individual works for CSX, does it automatically link it, or you have to go in and manually?
I mean, something has to make the connection, but it's pretty, yeah, I'll go ahead and do it with Fundly. So if I go to my work information, I look up Fundly, oh, hey, it does exist. I can go ahead and select it. I do currently work at the organization. I can put like what my job title is and stuff like that and save. And now if I went to the organizational record for Fundly, we'll see that I'm listed as an employee.
Oh, excellent, okay.
That's what we need. That's what I want to get the data better at. Okay?
I did something wrong there. Hold on. But that should, okay. I'm not sure what I did there, but come on, Eric. Fundly. There we go. That's the proper way to connect the two.
Okay.
And now if I go back, there's Fundly. If I click on Fundly, it actually will take me to the record for Fundly, and you'll see under its employees section that I am one of them. So let's just finish this up.
That would be marvelous in the future. Okay.
Here it is. Oh, apparently I'm in here twice. Yep, because duplicate prevention requires address as well, it didn't catch me. So I'm sorry, I accidentally created a duplicate. I'll merge that later. Sorry. I know you're trying to clean those up, and here I go making one.
It helps everybody understand, so it's fine.
Okay. Yeah, so this is an example of because of the stringency of your prevention settings, despite the names matching in the emails, it still didn't consider me the same person. Okay. What was I going to do? Okay, so that is contacts. There's more details there, but let's keep it high level. An important feature is communicating with your contacts. So one way to do that is I can just click on this email icon right up here, and I can send an email directly from the system. So this is pretty nifty. When they reply to it, though, unlike Connect, it will go to your regular email address, but it will show in the engagement history that you sent them an email. One of the bulk actions I mentioned you can do, I didn't mention you can do it, but I mentioned you can do bulk actions when you do advanced searches or even searches. One of them is to send emails. So if you had 3 people in a search result, you could send them all the same email. However, when you start sending bulk emails, large numbers of emails, that's when we start getting into the realm of newsletters, or what we call newsletters, basically bulk email, very similar to Fundly Connect's email functionality. In order for someone to receive an email, a newsletter, they do have to have an email in their record, and they have to have their send email preference set to yes. So do keep that in mind. And then they need to be subscribed for one of your categories, which you can create under configurations, newsletter categories. But we do have the newsletter functionality here. You can create newsletters pretty easily. I'm going to go through very top level. I'm just going to bring up the first screen. I'm not going to go through every field. Basically, create newsletter, put in your sender information, select your category. You'll select a template or create a new one, and we're not going to cover the template editor at this time. You'll select your recipients. By default, it will go to all possible recipients, but you can use filters to slim it down. And then on the confirm screen, you can send yourself a test email and then say when it's going to go out, either immediately or at a different date. The functionality, by the way, in Connect works almost exactly the same for sending bulk emails. So keep that in mind. If you know one, you actually more or less know the other. So that's the newsletter functionality. Once a newsletter has been sent, we don't see it here because we don't have any that we've sent. There will be some options over here. One of them says view summary, which will give you the full breakdown of that newsletter, how many people you sent it to, how many people opened it, how many bounced, so on and so forth. So it gives you some statistics, like you would get in like MailChimp, for example. So that's newsletter. By the way, I mentioned templates. All your templates, both for newsletter and donation acknowledgement, will be stored under Manage Templates. So basically every template that we would use in this communication section will be under Manage Templates. You'll be able to see them. They're broken into sections. You probably don't have any yet. You may have 1 or 2 donation ones, but yeah, you have just some basic ones. Communications, event, notifications, and invite templates, and so on and so forth. Another feature we have excuse me, is labels and letters. Given the large size of your database, you may or may not use this very often, but basically what this is a built-in mail merge. So you pick your output template format, excuse me, your output format. I usually recommend PDF. You'll have your letter format template. You have a label template. You usually only need one of these. In fact, we can make one right now if we wanted to. And you pick your filters, search, and you'll get, and then generate, and you'll get an email when it's done stating, here's your files. And you then have a bunch of PDF files you can print up that have already done the mail merge for you. Really good feature, cool feature, I think. If you're doing something that's actually going out to like 10,000 people, you might simply consider using a report or advanced search to get your data and then do the mail merge, send the data to a mailing house, for example, to do and have them do it. Depends on what your plan is. You guys have a large database, relatively speaking, so depends on what you're up to. But
Eric, I have a question.
yes.
Sometimes in the military, I'm not sure with civilian organizations, if you're sending out a mass email or newsletter, they set a threshold. For example, if there's more than 5 individuals on an email, in the military, they consider that spam. And immediately it's either not sent, rejected, or whatever. Are there any issues like that with this system that we would need to be aware of to tell potential recipients, set your email settings at or whatever?
Not that I'm aware of. What this does is it does send it in segments. It's not going to send it all at once. Our system is not like sending it out from Outlook. It's actually more like it's like a MailChimp system where it's got all the proper backend stuff. And reputations come into play and all that. So without getting the technicals of how email works, I think you should be fine.
Okay.
But yeah, no, I know what you're talking about. Spam filters and all that can be really tricky to work around. But you should be safe with this system. If something bounces, it's usually, I have yet to really see anything or have anyone complain about bounces not being legitimate, i.e. just because they got caught in a spam filter and they shouldn't have. So
I think, Eric, the answer to that is this works like MailChimp and Constant Contact, where it's really just sending each one, in essence, individually. It's not sending it as Outlook, where you've got 5 of them at one time.
Yes.
If they're receiving it individually with each individual name, I think because that's the technology that the Constant Contact and the MailChimp use.
Correct.
And you're saying you have that same technology.
Correct.
So it won't react the same. It's not like Outlook sends it to 5 people. Now, let me ask, on the other hand then, when we do an email to 5 to 10 people, is that really using the MailChimp methodology or the Outlook methodology?
It's something kind of in between. We're still using the MailChimp server methodology, but I can't guarantee that, and I think the 2 lines are each sent individually, but it's probably a little closer to Outlook. So anything large, I would probably use newsletter. Most definitely.
But through email, it might be doing it an Outlook-y way.
It might be doing it something closer to the Outlook-y way, in which case your risks are higher of being bounced.
Okay, when we select multiple contacts, this is another good question then, using the email technology. A lot of times you want them in essence blind sent, okay? When we select, let's say, 5 to send an email to, will it be a blind send where everybody doesn't see everybody else's email, or will it be like an Outlook send, if you put it in the 2, it sees everybody else it went to and they can reply all?
My understanding is blind. Each one will get their own individual email.
Okay. Thank you. Then it runs as a MailChimp all the time.
Okay. Gotcha. Yeah. Okay, yeah, I guess so. Yeah, I guess so.
It does. Okay. So nobody can do a reply all. So in our wording, if you want to say, if you're trying to reach everybody, you can't do a reply all on this.
Correct.
Okay. It would just go to a non-land.
Correct.
Okay. Thank you. This is really great stuff you're saying. Okay. Thank you.
We've put a lot of work into our email. We learned a lot of lessons on our version 1, so. We worked very hard on it. Okay, so moving on. Um, we also have the ability that every donation that comes in will get set aside and put into a queue, and you can go into that queue and send out the letters both by email and by mail. So without going into all the details on this, basically different donations would get assigned the correct template as per your configurations, which we can go into sometime, and you would then able to select and generate batches. You could have multiple templates in play and email or print those letters and send them as you desire, including the printing of envelopes.
Okay, I have a question again.
Absolutely.
So I'm toying with, even though somebody says they'll take the communication mail and email, I'm toying with on any amount, pretend over $1,000, even if they said, I want my acknowledgement of my donation via email, I'm okay with that. I would like to also print it and mail it to them with a hand-signed signature by our CEO.
That's doable.
Do you have that option?
Yeah, you can always, so when unfortunately we don't have a batch we can work with here, not yet. I can always override the template, and I can always override the mailing preference, assuming they actually have a mailing address on record. So if they don't have a mailing address on record, that's not going to be an option. But if they do, you can always say, I'm going to print it as well.
Thank you.
Yeah, no, a lot of flexibility here. We also have year-end thank yous, kind of basically the same idea, but a little bit more simplified, and this will use a slightly different template, and it's almost kind of a little closer to newsletter and kind of the steps you go through. But basically you pick your year, you pick your template, you pick your people or everybody, and you generate them into one big batch for printing or email, and it will have their year totals. So there's a placeholder that gives called transaction grid, which will give you the date of the donation, the amount, the program it was to, and any tribute information on it. And you can use that every year at the end of the year. So
that's really important.
Yeah.
Okay.
So send acknowledgement is your day-to-day, and this is your end of year. So this gets a lot of use in December and January. Or mostly January, because December you might still be getting donations. Anyway, so that's communications. How are we doing on time? We're doing okay on time. We're not going to get through everything, but we also have event functionality. Let's just go through this really, really quickly. You can create events, single and repeating events, and with these events you'll be able to track basically who showed up, when they went, all that. You can track donations against events. You can link a donation to an event. You can sell tickets online and offline for events. You can have group and single tickets. You can send invites to events, including private invites, which only go to people you select, and thus they'd be able to register through the email, even if the event is not published online. Notifications and customized registration forms for events. So a lot of cool functionality around events. Though we don't seem to have any currently in your system, so I'm not sure how heavily you use events.
We're just setting it up. We've never had that option before. We've used like Eventbrite and all of those.
Okay, gotcha.
So we are excited that we're set up with the Stripe. One of the silly little questions, let's say it's a simple training like we do a training on how to be a board member or a cohort for veterans on how to do volunteers. So we could make that like a mini event that they could sign up for, and they could literally sign up and pay for this.
Yeah, you could. I've seen people do that. Yeah, you could do that. If it was something free and you wanted to do it and register it like as an orientation through Fun Lake Connect, that's one option. If it's something more, a little less volunteer-y and a bit more, I don't know, whatever, then yeah, you could do it through here. I've seen people do that.
Okay, but I forgot that we have that functionality. Thank you for clarifying in Connect.
Correct.
But will Connect allow you to accept monies for any training?
It will not.
Okay, so if we're doing a training that requires money, do it on our CRM side. If we're doing a free training, do it on the Connect side.
That indeed is an option.
Thank you.
Yeah, no, good point. All right, so that's events in a nutshell. Mostly just it exists, add event, you'll go through the steps. We also have membership functionality. If we go to configuration, that's where you'll make your membership levels. You can make registration forms and things called benefit types, which are basically tangible benefits, sometimes intangible benefits that members might get. Managed membership will have all your actual memberships present. Let's see, you should have something here because of migration.
We have one.
We have one. Okay, cool. So we have one active, 6 inactive. We can add new memberships. We can renew memberships. We can change them to a different level. We can void them, basically saying they didn't happen. If we go to inactive, we can do the same thing. And this is where basically we can bring someone's membership back to life. Renewal is what you want to do over making a new one because they create a chain, basically. So ideally, everybody has a single membership chain from the day they start being a membership all the way to the present date, hopefully. When you add a new membership, it creates a new chain, which might be confusing because it might and can skew reporting. So make sure if someone has been a member in the past, even if it's been several years, that you renew their previous membership if you want to continue that chain. Now, if you do want a fresh chain, then you would just go ahead and do a new membership. So.
Okay, I'm having somebody turn on and connect all of our memberships. I've had extensive conversation with Tanner on this.
Okay.
But the one thing you just brought out, and I knew it, but I'm trying to figure it out, is that on the Connect side, it shows us as 400 nonprofit organizations.
Correct.
Okay.
Sounds right.
On this side, it should have shown about 120 member organizations, and in essence, that 400 inactive, or the difference between the two, and they're not. So what we're having to do is go in and edit and change, not renew, not anything, each of these 120 that are members and get their right start dates and their right end dates in before we hook to the accounting program. So that's what we're getting ready to do. But my only curious question in this is, why didn't they match on each side when we did this whole migration? If we had 400 sitting in over there, we should have had 400 here.
I can't address that. That's something you may want to take up with Tanner.
Okay.
It basically what it comes down to is they weren't migrated into both systems.
Okay.
So,
Eric, can I ask you a question? And this
yes.
is just what, when we initially started, remember when you put in Eric Metzler?
Correct.
And then we found out there was actually 2 of you in there as a Mr. Eric Metzler and an Eric Metzler.
Correct.
The same thing happened with an organization. I guess what I'm trying to convince my mind or find out, what can we do on our end to prevent a duplication or whatever of that? Does it need to be a Boolean type search or
I can
what tips?
Yeah. When we set that manage duplicates up, we've only set it temporarily as loose as we can get it, just to get this 10,000 people in from constant contact. The moment those are in, we're going to tighten that whole thing back up to where we shouldn't have any more duplicates. It will be back down to probably email, first name, last name, and date of birth. Okay?
I guess where I was headed is when I'm searching for an organization, if I type it in wrong, and the only reason I use Mr. Eric Metzler and Eric Metzler is if I type in an organization, we're just going to say 26.5 with Donna.
Right.
If I happen to, and that's the way it is in the system, if I happen to type in Donna 26.5, will the system be able to recognize that I'm actually looking at the same organization?
Yeah,
Okay. I was thinking of the other. Okay.
Is there a way to set up? Did you hear the question?
No, I got cut off there at the very, very end.
I guess what I'm asking is, for example, we have an organization called the 26.5 with Donna. If, as long as I type in 26.5 with Donna, and that's the way it was entered in the system, it'll recognize it. However, if I put in Donna 26.5, it may not recognize that actual organization being in the system.
Correct.
And I guess the reasoning I'm using is when you typed in Eric Metzler, then we found out, hey, you were actually in there because you had Mr. Is there a way in the system to set it up where it would recognize names or part of it, or kind of like doing an internet?
Yeah. And the way when I was on the ad screen, that doesn't look for existing contacts, and that's where duplicate prevention normally comes into play. If I was on a screen, here, let's do this. I'll show an example. Although I did just merge myself because I wanted to clean up my record while we were paused. Whenever I have a screen that lets me look for a contact to like create an invoice for them, for example, if I type in Eric, for example, even Metzler,
It comes up.
I'd get both. And
Beginning.
mind you, I just merged both my record. So for example, if I type in Donna,
Okay.
I would get, let's see, is that 20? So I'd get theoretically I'd get the 23 Donna and the Donna 23.
Right.
Or I
I
could
don't
do
see her in
23.
that. Maybe we haven't entered her yet. 26.5.
Yeah. 26.5. Okay, so that doesn't look to be present in the system at this time.
Right.
Yeah, that's the fun of what we get to do now.
Yeah. So.
26.2.
26. Oh, maybe I do it.
Yeah, this is out of one of our things.
26.2.
26.2.
Yeah, I'm not finding that.
Okay.
So.
All right.
Okay, so that's that's membership. Basically, all I want to point out there is you have different membership levels. They can have benefits, and if you can go to benefit fulfillment to see the member benefits and what's actually been sent out and what hasn't been. If you have tangible benefits to send out, and then just remember that key concept of see if they already have an existing membership, even if it's expired, and if it is, renew it versus making a new chain because that'll affect reporting.
Okay.
That's where that came in. Is I'm creating in there. I don't want to do that.
Okay, keep going.
Okay.
We're with you.
We also have the ability to record grants and pledges as well as regular gifts. So regular gifts are most of your donations. Someone gives you $20, $100, whatever amount. Grants are usually something you've applied for, and we have a whole grant screen where you can go through the application process, record the grant from start to finish, including different statuses, and you can keep track if you're rejected versus approved and pre-approval, which is stuff that has not been either of these yet. So grant functionality. And then with pledges, that's basically any promises. So if someone says, I'll send you a check each month for 3 months, that's a promise, that's a pledge. And you can record that under pledges and keep track of how much of their pledge have they fulfilled, when do they owe you the money, and so on and so forth. Not to be confused with when we enter donations, there's a concept of recurring gifts, which are when you have a credit card and you actually charge it automatically each month. So similar to pledges in that there's probably a schedule, but they're actually automating it, in which case it's not so much a promise as in they're actually going to be forced to fulfill it. Not forced, but you know what I mean, via automatic deductions. So just wanted to throw that out there. We have donations, recurring donations, pledges, so promises, and grants functionality.
Does this system provide a firewall for credit card numbers?
Yes.
We have to provide
Yeah, she's asking about the firewall.
Well, we have full PCI compliance. Everything's encrypted and all that. So the credit cards themselves are actually being stored in Stripe, and Stripe is basically as secure as your bank, or even more so depending on the bank or what have you. No, they should all be the same. PCI is pretty standard. Anyway, so it's full PCI compliance. When we transmit credit cards to them and tell them to process payments, it's full encryption every step of the way. We have the nice little lockup here, and so everything is safe. So if someone ever says, well, how do I know that credit card's secure? You can know we have full PCI compliance, which is the same as the bank. Our credit card processor has it as well. Everything's encrypted every step of the way. So.
That's a pledge where it's automatically taken every month, say.
That's okay, so recurring.
Can we say that they would get a thank you every time automatically as well?
So what's going to happen is every time the pledge payment is recorded, so that's a manual recording, or every time the recurring donation is recorded, which is automatic, a thank you letter will be added to the send acknowledgement queue for you to send out.
Okay.
So it will.
Can you tell her the wording for all these, where that goes? Because she's the one who's going to be writing all of these up, when you do a donation, thank you for your donation. Your donation goes to blah, 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 blah.
Oh,
Can
so you mean
show her?
yeah. So if we
Thank
go to
you.
manage templates, this is where your templates are currently stored. It's not where they're being assigned, but this is where they're stored. So we have three templates currently saved in your system. We can edit them. So for example, this is probably actually one being assigned in the system right now. We can edit it. It will take us into the editor. If you've ever used MailChimp, it's kind of the same. What you see is what you get editor. Um, we can edit, copy, delete sections. We can drag and drop new sections in. If I edit a section, it has this simple little editor over here. Wherever I put my cursor, I can select a placeholder and add that placeholder, and that'll put in the appropriate information. Client, by the way, is you. Everything below that is the donor's information. Most people use formal and informal salutation, date, and the gift information. So specifically gift amount, gift date, and tax deductible value. And that's what these placeholders you see in here are. Actually, organization name should be swapped out for client name, because that's you. So.
Thank you for explaining that. Pardon?
Can you cut and paste some word if I got it?
Yeah. That's what Jeanette is getting ready to put in all of our acknowledgement letter types. Then we will connect them to the type of thing they go to. But Eric, I guess, saying the email responses for every action that's taken, that she will be responsible for setting up those. You know what I mean? Thank you for signing up. Thank you for anything.
Gotcha. So the system
on this side.
Gotcha. The system does have a variety of email notifications, not quite as many as you do in Fundly Connect, and not quite used as much, and not as used as often as Fundly Connect. When you send out a donation acknowledgement batch, you'll be able to set your sender information at that time. When you send out a newsletter, you set your sender information at that time. For most cases, you set your information at the time. So if, Bonnie, you're sending something out and you want to get it, you just set that at the time you send out that communication. There are a few places, however, where you can define it in the system. So I'm going to start with the one that you don't use as often, and that's invoices. Any financial transaction that's done online has an invoice. You can also send invoices from the back end, and under the More tab is where you can set your sender information for invoices. Otherwise, any default automated communications are found under configurations, email notifications, and we kind of break them up into sections. So if we just do all, which is what I'm going to do, we will see all those templates. Let me pull that up, and kind of like Fundly Connect, you can put the sender information and what have you. Currently, it's all set to Bonnie. So, you might want to change that.
Change each messaging to be customized for what the action is.
Correct.
And it's more on Connect side than it is on this side. But every one of those needs to be checked out before we go live by somebody.
Yeah, so I guess it actually is more than Connect. I didn't realize it was more than Connect, actually. A lot of them have things to do with membership, and some of them are internal things, but I would review every single one of them. So
make sure they have our branding with it.
Exactly.
But that's not for our users in our office. That is for Cassandra and or I and or you, depending, to get set up. We make sure this is done. Nobody else really has to see that unless something's wrong or a person leaves. We've got to change the name from Kim to Cassandra, blah, blah, blah. If you have any issues, contact so-and-so. Okay.
Can you run a report on the ones that need to be sent? Or
what do you mean?
Well, we were talking about like a contribution that's every month, and you run and you send a thank you letter. Is there a report that you can pull or create, track that, or to know that it was sent?
Know that it was sent.
I think so. I've never actually run a, was this donation acknowledged or not report. It will show in their record. Also, anything that's not sent will still be in the queue. That's a really good question. If I go to default reports, So I guess let's talk about reports while we're here. Default reports are all the reports that come with the system. And I do believe, I think that there's one in here for that purpose. Maybe there's not. So that might be something I need to go get made. If you, yeah, you know what? Actually, I don't think there is one for that at this time. But that doesn't mean that we can't build that report. Oh no, donation acknowledgement, status of acknowledgement. Boom, there it is.
Oh, okay.
So it is present. So yeah, we try to make sure that we have a report for every purpose. So you can go ahead and usually run one of these reports and it will fit your need. If you need to run it, just click on the name, execute, or you can pick the format. This is actually the exact same reporting tool that Connect uses. So everything you know from Connect for reporting and CRM for reporting is interchangeable. Schedule, copy, you know, what is report, you can get the information on it. If a report is like almost exactly what you need, but maybe needs one more column, you can always email support@fundly.com. A lot of times I can get that added in that day. If you need a new default report that you think would be useful for both yourself and for other other clients, I can usually build that within about a week. If you need to build your own reports and don't want to wait on me, you can also go to enhanced reports. And this is, like I mentioned earlier, it could be 3 webinars, 3 trainings in its own right. You can make your own reports as needed under enhanced reports. So enhanced reports run a little slower than default reports, but they are just as powerful. They can do all the same things. It's just the fact that you built it. If you copy a default report, it gets added to your enhanced reports, so you can always take one of our default reports and modify it.
Okay. In QuickBooks, we do a lot of reports. I'll make one for a classification, so I can get a P&L on an item.
Correct.
All right. When I do it, I might run a report on a time basis of that here, now, and then. Can we save the edited report we created so that we can just go back to it for the new time each time we need to do it, or do we have to recreate the report all over again?
When you save a report, it will be available in the future, just like a default report. And you can always edit the report and hard code your filters in case you don't want, we had an elaborate filter set up, and then you can just go back and edit the filters again and so on and so forth. So all reports you create are saved. All of them are run in real time, and you can always modify them on the fly, your enhanced reports at the very least. And with default reports, you can usually swap filters in and out. So the reporting tool is very powerful. It can be used very simply using what's called express reports for basic lists, kind of like an advanced search, or you can use what's called a standard report, plus some other options, and get very advanced using tab. You can do summation and grouping. You can do formulas like you would in Excel. So you can get very intricate with your reporting as you get more experienced in it. I personally love reporting. It's like my favorite thing in the system, my favorite thing to do. So I don't know, I'm a geek, but I like the report tool.
Excellent.
Alrighty, so we're just about out. We actually are out of time, but let's wrap up with just a few odds and ends. Import utility, configurations. We do have a MailChimp integration in case you need it. Over here, there's a variety of settings. Acknowledgement settings, you'll want to visit this. This is the default letter that will go for all donations in the system. When you configure your funds, which we can go more into detail when we talk donation config, you can override the default so that certain funds get certain letters, and in donation acknowledgement, you can always manually override the letter. And there's a variety of other settings in here you may want to review, like your default salutations. Other than that, I think we touched on everything in the system that we needed to make you just aware that it existed.
Eric, can I ask you a question? And overall, I've tried to view your videos, and in fact, there was one that was posted the 1st of June that I thought was outstanding, that dealt with the Fundly Connect. And yesterday's training, when we were going to kind of reinforce that video. But as I'm sitting here and having trained individuals in the military and different organizations throughout the years or whatever, I'm not asking for the easy way out here, but I probably have 10 or 12 pages of notes.
Mm-hmm.
And you know what happens over time? This stuff kind of starts merging together, and I'm
Mm-hmm.
sitting here wondering, okay, what's the easiest way to build this house brick by brick,
Mm-hmm.
say for an organization or an individual? And I guess where I'm headed with this, do you guys happen to have maybe just a pocket checklist that would
Yes.
provide,
It's a little older,
you
but
know,
I
just
do.
by subject, not by how to do, but just by subject? You know, this is what, when you sit down the first time with an organization, okay,
Oh, so just like a outline of what I cover?
yes, sir. Yeah, because again, I like to go back, try to master whatever it is that you've discussed here.
Okay.
So the very first time that I sit down with somebody, I just want to make sure that, because I believe practice makes permanent,
Mm-hmm.
and if I show them the wrong way the first time, that's the worst thing you can do for an individual or organization. And if I could give them a template to kind of follow along, or me to follow along, then, you know, over time I won't need that template anymore.
Kind of like a study
Initially,
guide.
get out the gate here.
It's like a study guide.
Yes.
Not presently. When I did my trainings for version 1, I used them quite extensively, but nobody ever used them. No one ever commented that they were useful, and I just kind of stopped doing them. But um, I have a couple for my own purposes that I have put together for version 2. They're kind of incomplete. What I could do is finish that project. It wouldn't take me that much time. And I could make them available on the tutorial database under getting started and just call them like training outlines. And
Love it.
okay, I'll set that on.
Love it.
Let me do that. Let me set a task for myself, and I'll work on that later this week. And you'll find them under the getting started section either this week or next. So they should be there by next week. I've already got
Nice.
some of them started.
Because
So
when we come in, you know, we're doing more than Funly Connect.
Mhm.
There's not the, you know, there's a lot of moving parts.
hmm
This is just one of the 52 gears moving each day at hands-on.
yeah,
And it'd be nice that, okay, when I set aside 30 minutes today, thank you very much. It would be nice just to highlight, okay, oh, here's
Okay.
where I need to pick up on Tuesday or whatever.
yeah. No, I can totally do that. So I'll have it broken down kind of by my webinar topics. So donation configuration, donation entry, events, so on and so forth. Um, I'll start with the basics, and I might not get everything done this week, but it'll grow over time,
Nice.
and I'll just
Well, and
put it all in
don't
the
you
same
have
spot.
a lot of it under these tabs already?
I do.
You know, in step-by-steps on things.
Yeah.
Like if we
So
went
I
from
mean, you
field
could,
to
yeah, you could kind of treat the way I organize my tutorial database as the guide. You want to know about fundraising? Go to fundraising, and in a lot of ways, the topics here are
Well,
the points. You go to this page, and it's basically point by point. Now, well, it's in alphabetical order, but not in float, not in training order, but it's all the pieces that you'd want. You'd need all your configuration pieces. Then you'd need grants and pledges and premium fulfillment and adding gifts and batch gift entry, and then a couple of odds and ends. And these
do
actually,
me a
and then
favor,
this would,
click on one so we can see what you've got under those
yeah.
tabs.
So add gift to contact. It's an older one, but it does actually have a video. I think this one actually has a video. Cool, it does. Not all of them do. And it's basically line by line. I mean, this is actually the script I use in the video. I write my instructions so it actually mirrors, and I just read this off as I go. It makes it a lot easier to do the video. So you can
we
basically,
may not need to reinvent the wheel, because the issue I may be having is internal.
okay,
In-house here. I didn't realize, because I've never been able to open up. I've just seen, if you go hit your back arrow where you have the topics,
hmm
that's as far as I've been able to get on my own computer. So it may be an issue in-house here.
do you get like an error
They just won't open. I don't know if it's the Firefox, if it's the
or? No, that's what I use.
Internet Explorer, whatever. Yeah.
He may be on an older system. That I don't know. I will have to research that on the
Yeah,
IT
that I
side.
think that's going to be something that's going to have to check on your side. But yeah, if you want, you could just use these sections as your guides. I think it's still a good idea that I write up those guides. It's come up a few times, so maybe I'll just put it as maybe a longer term project then. But I'll try to make those available eventually.
This is great, and this really helps him at this moment. So,
Okay.
you know, and then this is just the CRM, everybody. There's another whole section on the Connect.
Yeah. So actually,
Correct.
if you go back to Fundly Support Center, and go to Connect 2 V2 Plus, this is all the stuff for Fundly Connect. And there's even, this gives you all your basics, and it's kind of organized the same way. There's some basically instruction guidebooks. They're almost full-on books that are being developed. I'm not actually part of that process directly. That will also become available.
Yeah,
I'm not
because
sure.
we're working on the, Dan is working on the agency book
Yeah,
and
those are
the
the ones I'm
volunteer
talking about.
coordinator book, I believe.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we have a third party, actually a client that we've partnered with that is quite dedicated to documentation. So we're partnering with them, and they're writing the documentation. And since they're actually getting it from the perspective of being a client, I'm actually personally hoping that it will be a lot less technical and a lot more hands-on than what I usually write. I'll be honest, I've never worked in a nonprofit. I know the technicals of these things, but I know that I think that sometimes clients helping each other can sometimes be almost better than whatever I could provide, because you guys understand each other better than I think I do. But anywho, those guides will be coming pretty darn soon. I think we're hitting one of them should be out, I think, this month. Maybe it's next month.
Yeah, I'm waiting on one or two. So
Yeah, so those I think will be also a tremendous help for both for Connect. Alrighty.
All right.
Any other questions before we adjourn for the day?